What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Thursday. I almost thought it was a Monday. Eric, I love you. Let me fix you in the screen. You are way to the side there, my guy. All right, cool. What's going on? Hopefully everybody's having a good Thursday. We got some news to talk about. We got the schedule being released yesterday. I dropped a schedule breakdown video about 20 minutes ago over on the main channel, so check that out after the stream. But we're going to discuss some more things of the schedule. I'm going to get Eric's takeaways on it. And we also got to talk about the news that got leaked today that the Portland Trail Blazers supposedly aren't going to have their broadcast teams travel with the teams to road games. Apparently they're looking at remote broadcasts. We'll discuss that and give our opinions on that. Eric, what's going on, man? Lots of stuff to talk about tonight. Excited for that. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Pretty good day. But yeah, this news has got me a little disturbed. And a little worried, too.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. We'll touch upon that. So, yeah, honestly, I spent 8 to 9 hours on that schedule breakdown. Hopefully you guys really do enjoy that video and the graphics I have with it. I posted the schedule graphics in the Discord. I need to fix, all 4 of the Spurs games are at home, so I need to change 2 of those to road. I knew I was going to make a mistake at some point. Was surprised I didn't make more. If you catch any mistakes in that schedule that's in the Discord, definitely let me know. If you want to join our Discord, I will plug a link in the live chat right now, and you can join our Discord server. Anyway, what do you want to start off with, Eric? Do you want to start off with schedule stuff? Do you want to talk about this broadcast news? Where do you want to go?
Let's let chat decide.
Chat, you decide. We run this like a democracy. What should we talk about? The schedule or the broadcasting? There's your chat poll. All right. Of course, I gave a lot of my opinions on the schedule, but I'm curious to hear what you think about some of the things. I kind of had to rant about a couple of things that bothered me with the schedule, but I don't think we're going to talk about the schedule, because if you read chat, it says broadcast, 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 broadcast. All right, so you guys want to talk about this broadcasting thing first. Out of 25 votes, it has 72% of the vote. I don't think there's going to be a change there. All right, you guys made your voices heard. So today, it was leaked by Dwight James and Chad Doing, who now have a show together on Rip City Radio 620. That used to be Travis and Chad. Now it's Dwight and Chad. And they had a report that stated that the Blazers are going to be doing remote broadcasts of road games this year. Now, during the pandemic, back when Jordan Kent was the commentator,
yeah,
they did remote broadcasts for road games. It was very commonplace, and that was due to necessity. That was due to the pandemic. It looks like the Blazers are going to try and take some things that they learned, quote unquote, from that year and try and apply it to this year while they spend money in other areas improving the broadcast. So that's the leaked news. Travis Demers wouldn't be traveling with the team either, so he'd be doing a remote broadcast on the radio, which I think is even harder for a radio guy to do that. In the end, this has a lot of fans very frustrated because remote broadcasts are lower quality. It's a lot harder to mix the sound right. You're taking 2 audio feeds and trying to mix them together when normally you have the announcers on their mics with the stadium noise filtering through. And there's no mixing that needs to be done.
Probably means the Root Sports feed will be delayed too. So if you're watching the other team's illegal stream, it'll probably be 20 seconds ahead of the Root Sports one, which is annoying too when you're trying to watch with other people or,
Yeah, so Dwight James and Chad Doing said that this is what's going to take place. Now, I mean, Chad Doing, that radio show used to be Chad and Travis. Travis is the radio guy, so that's probably the source there, you know. They probably have pretty dang good info. I absolutely trust that leak. Now, Dwayne Hankins, the president of basketball operations for the Portland Trailblazers, came out with a statement that said that they hadn't yet decided on remote broadcasts. Okay, let me see if I can find the actual quote here, because I want to read it in full.
That is called, we're getting a lot of pushback today, and we didn't realize it was going to be this big of a deal, so let's try to...
Absolutely. See, I wanted to read it off before I said that, but absolutely. So Sean Highkin did some reporting. He has a quote from Dwayne Hankins that was sent out in an email Thursday evening, so this evening, that said, quote, for this from Dwayne Hankins, "We haven't made a permanent decision either way on traveling our broadcast teams. We plan to incorporate all the lessons we've learned through doing remote broadcasts during COVID-19 over the last 2 years and see if we can't be more efficient as we look to invest in other areas to improve our broadcast. If we decide not to travel and we think there's a loss of quality for the fan or in our broadcast team's ability to do their job, we will react accordingly. I've asked our crew to be an industry leader in producing a next-gen broadcast, and we think that's in the areas of statistics, data visualization, behind-the-scenes access, and hiring talent to help better explain what happens on and off the court." Okay? I absolutely trust that there had been a decision made. I don't think Chad Ewing and Dwight Jaynes are going to come out with such confidence in that reporting, especially when they have a very clear source there.
Yeah, if they didn't have Travis being part of the show formerly, I could maybe see them jumping the gun and maybe it was just a rumor or something. But yeah, like they don't come out with that knowing that everyone's going to think it came from Travis. So, but maybe that was a smart move by Travis to get him to.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Travis. I don't know what he would prefer. I just know from a fan's perspective, having your commentators in the arena makes for a better product when you compared it to remote broadcasts. So, I mean, this is all speculation. Maybe they got it from somewhere else. I don't know, right? Like, I'm just giving my speculation from a fan of the team right now without having talked to any of the guys we're talking about. But that's what it seems like. And it seems like that Dwayne Hankins statement is, whoa, guys, calm down. We haven't made a decision yet, okay? If it doesn't end up being good for you guys, then we'll do what's best for you guys and we'll adjust accordingly. And, he's basically taking the backlash and trying to walk it back. I believe maybe the fan reaction has them reconsidering. I don't know, but yeah, it was definitely a negative reaction to say the least.
All right, let me get this straight. You're trying to improve behind the scenes content by not having the announcers with the team, like getting inside information and being at the stadium or the arena and seeing things firsthand, getting the sights and the feel of the arena, the temperature of the team firsthand on flights and on off days and at shoot around and all these things. You're saying it's easier to just stay in Portland and get a better broadcast? No, I'm not buying any of that crap. That's bull crap. And Chad Ewing also reported that they were planning on only having one camera. So until he reported that, I was maybe thinking, okay, maybe they're going to try to justify this some other way. But if they only had one camera feed and only had one camera for their coverage, that is clear being cheap, and they got called out on it today, and that's what's happening now. It's been, and I am sick of this from this Portland Trailblazers organization. Every step of the way for the last 10 to 12 years, ever since they went to Comcast, I forget what year that was. But, half the people in Portland couldn't even watch the games because they didn't get Comcast where they were at. And even if they wanted to get Comcast, they couldn't. So for years, they didn't give a crap about how fans couldn't watch the games unless they bought a service that they couldn't even get in some areas, right? And now they get this new TV deal with it's freaking 2022 and they have like no streaming options except for Fubo TV or whatever it is, which no one had ever heard of prior to that, and it's not on any of the main streaming platforms. Still a year later isn't on any of those platforms. They do not care about the consumer, and it's weird, man, because the Blazers, it's like, should be the thing they care about the most, in my opinion, is that broadcast, because it's so important to keep growing the fan base. And I mean, we see it with our show, Tori. We have like an international audience, right? We get fans from all over the world watching our show because they love the Portland Trailblazers. And how are they supposed to watch games if they're not even on freaking, like, they don't even get Root Sports in, say, Australia or whatever, you know? Like it needs to be on these streaming services where people can watch anywhere. It's 2022, man. Get with the times. And it seems like they're just so archaic with the way they go about their broadcasting. And it's driving me crazy that they don't care about it. Because, I mean, I know for some people it won't even register that they're not there. And that's totally fine. But for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way, but I don't want to speak for you, I don't want to listen to someone watching the game on TV. That's what I'm doing, right? Like, I can analyze the game on my monitor if I want to. I don't need commentators. I would rather just have a silent stream if that's the game. If that's
at that point, maybe we go the Suns Valley podcast route and just start doing play-by-play streams for games. Like, right. I mean, that's the thing. We can watch a screen and give commentary too. Now, obviously, my voice isn't Kevin Calabro's, but that's part of the thing with being a broadcast team, a local broadcast, is you travel with the team, you're with the players in team planes in the same hotel, right? You get to talk to these guys on road trips. Mm-hmm. You're part of the road trip. You experience the road trip too. And that gives you some insight into, we flew into Minnesota this morning and it was 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Right? And it was freezing and our bus got delayed, and because they go through that too when they travel with the team. They got to go through all of that, right? Yep. And they get to, get some player insight with conversations with players.
Stuck in an elevator.
Stuck in the elevator, man. Like, that's an underrated part. If you're trying to give fans a better product and more insight into the game, you're stripping insight if you're not having these guys travel with the team. And I mean, that's all off-air stuff that you can bring on the air that's insightful. That's not even talking about the fact that, I mean, you can tell when it's a remote broadcast, man. And you have times where we had this all the time during, 2021 season or whatever, when they were doing remote broadcasts, where the in-arena feed and the commentator audio feed weren't exactly synced up, and it completely ruined the broadcast. Mm-hmm. Now, at that point in time, I was just happy to have basketball after everything that had happened in the previous year, and that was a situation where they had to do it, so I was willing to look past that and could still enjoy a game. When you're talking about potentially being the only team in the NBA cheap enough to not send a broadcast team on the road, because I bet you no other organizations are even thinking about this, okay? Let alone, like, are there any MLB teams that do this? The only one I can think of is Toronto, but they have a weird situation in Canada, different rules regarding COVID and all that sort of stuff. Like, you're the outlier if you're Portland, if you're doing this. And it's obviously a cheap decision. You don't have to pay for hotels, for the broadcast crew. You don't have to haul all this equipment. Like, and that's the thing. People just think commentators. You're talking about people working in the truck that travel. It's more than just Kevin Calabro, Lamar Hurd, and Travis Demers. It's all the people that help put that on as well. So it's obviously a cheap decision. They think they can cut a corner and think, for whatever reason, which I don't agree with, that they can put on a similar broadcast remotely and save some money. And then, I mean, how much money do you have to spend to the point where you have to not let the broadcasters travel with the team so you can spend money on, what was it, like advanced stats and data visualization? The thing is, you can do all that stuff with them traveling with the team. Like,
Well,
how do you, like, where does all that money go in that regard where, oh no, we are so tight budgeted because we allocated so much money here that they can't travel? It just makes no sense, man.
Well, I want to address something in chat in a second, but to that point, wouldn't they have to both have a crew then in Portland and at the game? Because they still have to have a crew at the arena, like with the feed and getting all that stuff, right? They can't just not have anyone there. So they almost would have to have more employees, I would think, to have to do it out of 2 locations, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes no sense to me. It just seems like they think they can do the same thing without spending a little extra money to make them travel, so they're trying to cut a corner. Which is, and then Jody wonders why, or I assume she wonders why fans want her to sell. Well, it's because of crap like this. It's because of cheap crap like this.
Well, and so the thing people are addressing in chat, and it's something that I was thinking earlier today, is that maybe Calabro, like health-wise, didn't want to travel or something like that. Totally fine, right? But like, why is Travis not going then? Like, why is it the TV and the radio crew, right? Or why was it announced that it was going to be all of them not staying? So if that was the case, wouldn't it just be Hurd and Calabro staying? So yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that they would do that without letting Demers still go on the trip, because I mean, I guess Demers, I don't know, radio's probably easier to do off a monitor because you're not watching the same game as everyone else. But like, I don't know, with Calabro, I mean, as good as he is, he has over the last couple of years gotten a lot of like players wrong on the court and stuff like that. You think that's going to get better with the monitor versus him in the arena, like right up close to the action? Like, I think this has the capability of being kind of a disaster with him as he nears retirement and stuff like that. I'm hoping that's not the case, and I hope they rethink it or whatever. Maybe this is part of the deal with him coming back, so maybe they can't change whether they go or not. But I just hope they rethink this, and it sounds like they are.
I mean, if Calabro doesn't want to go on the road, you hire somebody else for the other 41 games. You figure something else out. Like, you can't get strong armed by Kevin Calabro to the point where you just completely sacrifice the broadcast and nobody goes on the road.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the other thing is, I mean, they did that with Wheels, and hopefully that's another thing. They should have learned from that, because that was a disaster, and I'm guessing we can talk about it now, but Wheels was basically run out of town because of health problems, and they had this ridiculous post where they revealed what his health condition was, and I didn't understand that. They kind of pushed him out. He did not want to leave, but he was not able to go on the road or whatever. And that's when Travis started doing games during that time, and did a good enough job to get the job. But like, we should have learned from that situation, and the Mike and Mike situation, where we pushed out two broadcasters who were not loved by everyone, but fairly beloved around the Blazer Nation or whatever. And it's like we don't learn from these mistakes, and that's why I brought up the whole Comcast deal earlier, is because it just seems like they can never get out of their own way. It seems like they're always stepping in it, and it's always the wrong decision. And I don't understand, because now this is a totally different president who should be smart enough to not do these kind of things and understand that this is going to be a disaster. And they just continue to step in it and do the wrong thing. And I just don't understand why they don't consider the fans first and foremost over the bottom line or whatever it is they're doing with this.
Yep. The whole one camera thing, I mean, I don't know. Like, that could either be like one of their own cameras and then they take stuff from other cameras in the arena. I don't know, like, the logistics of that and whatnot, but they might have a different angle for replays or something. Like,
yeah.
If it's just one camera, the entire broadcast, and that's it, and that's the sideline camera, dude, I mean, if that's the case, I will be ranting after the first road game. Something else. I don't know if that's truly what they mean by one camera. If that's the case, then like that would be comically bad, man. Like, you can find high school broadcasts that have more than one camera angle. Like, I as a streamer, I always look for different software that could maybe make streams a little bit better. And there's software out there you can buy that you can just easily, like, I feel like I would be able to use it and be able to show replays from different cameras at a high school game or something like that, and be able to commentate and be able to put on a whole entire, like, high school stream with multiple cameras, replays, and play-by-play by myself just fine. Now, I'm not saying I'm talented at play-by-play and whatnot, but there is, like, lower budget stuff that you can do with multiple cameras in freaking high school gyms. So if you're talking about an NBA team, if they go into a broadcast with literally only one camera, all of a sudden that's more amateurish than some live streams you'll see for high school basketball games. And you're talking about an NBA team, one of the best 30 teams in the world, the best league in the world, doing that is comically bad. I feel like if you tuned into an NBL game or a EuroLeague game and you could tell it was a remote broadcast and they didn't have any replays, you would still think like, wow, really? The EuroLeague is this bad in terms of their broadcasts? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about lower level, lower, revenue leagues. So, I mean, it's just a very bad image. It's such a terrible image if that's the case, if it's only like one camera feed truly. So I don't know exactly what that means, but I mean, if that's the case, I don't know how you make the broadcast better by going that route, even if you do all this extra stuff.
Just hope they rethink it. But so,
I mean, it's just another thing with this team.
I want to get to that a little more in depth, but let's thank the donations. Mike Aldridge, $10 donation. Living in California, I have to watch via League Pass. I guess on road games, I'll have to watch the home team's broadcast, which is lame. I don't know. I'd almost kind of prefer that.
I like hearing other broadcast teams occasionally just to hear what I think about them and hear what they have to say about our team. Yeah. But, it's like the Hornets announcers for a game and the Bulls announcers for the game. Honestly, like, in that situation, I would probably just listen to other teams' broadcasts at times anyway. But thank you for the dono, Mike.
I saw... I forget who it was, but someone said, I think it was David Yu, just said, like, well, I watch it legally in Australia anyway. But so this is, I mean, I guess it's only for me or people who live in the Northwest, but I pay for Comcast. I get Root Sports. I cannot watch games outside of my house unless I watch them illegally. And that's ridiculous in 2022. I pay, over like a couple $100 a month for internet and TV through Comcast, and I can't even stream Root Sports from work or whatever. If I have to work a little later and it goes into the Blazer game, I have to stream that illegally, and I pay for the channel to have it. So that's just ridiculous. I mean, like, I understand, like, now so many people stream it illegally, and for most of you who do that anyway, you're not going to care. But like, for me, I'm actually trying to pay for their service, and I can't even do that. I'm not going to pay another $50 a month to have another TV streaming service on top of that. And so, like, it's just stupid that I can't go on, like, Root Sports. Because that's one thing that the best thing that Comcast did, or when it became NBC Northwest or whatever it was, is they had an app, and I could watch games from work. I could watch, if I was subscribed to Comcast, I got that channel wherever I went on my phone. And that was more of a recent thing before they closed down, but it was great because no matter where I was, I could watch that game because I pay for that channel. And now Root Sports comes along, and they're so archaic with the way they do things. Their broadcast isn't great. They have no before or after coverage. Last year it was just a game with no pre or post game show, and it was just, I don't know, it just seems like we're going backwards in time, and it's ridiculous.
Yep. You know what they need to do, and I've had this thought before, I don't think I've ever said it on stream, but going into their next TV broadcast deal, The NBA, if they were smart, would partner with YouTube, because all these teams have YouTube channels. There's a Portland Trailblazers YouTube channel. It has like almost 100K subscribers, right? Mm-hmm. If they were smart, they would create something where we have channel memberships on our channel, right? And we can upload things on our channel for just channel members specifically. Or we could have a live stream that only shows up to channel members. If the NBA was smart with their, 30 team channels that they have on YouTube, they would partner with YouTube in some sort of situation where channel members to the Portland Trailblazers channel could watch Portland Trailblazers games live on YouTube. So they could watch it on the go. They could go on YouTube on their PlayStation or whatever, log into their account and watch it however they want. They watch it on their TV, watch it on the go, right? And it's like maybe it's $5 a month if you are a channel member for your team's channel, then you get that stream, for the entire month. Maybe it's $10 a month. They could set their own pricing and just feed the broadcast feed through that. That would be like the more futuristic thing. I don't know if that's the most lucrative thing for the NBA, but the problem is you have all these people that watch illegal streams because a big part of it is a lot of people don't have other options. If you buy League Pass in the Portland area, you can't watch Portland games because it's not on the local broadcast. But if you have Xfinity for Root, where Root's not on, Hulu or YouTube TV, you can only watch it at home. You can't, for whatever reason, watch it if you're a block down the street, right? So it's like you're not making it easy for consumers, and a big part of their viewer base has already shown that they're willing to just go to illegal streams and watch it that way, where the NBA then loses money on it. I mean, teams and the league need to be smarter with getting those people to watch it legally and give them a little bit of money and allowing them to make a little bit more money off ads. Because if you're watching on a legal stream, you're not getting that ad revenue from ads. It doesn't count as a viewer. So, I mean, the fact that the Blazers have gone backwards and made it even harder to watch them. Now we're sacrificing road stream quality because they're being cheap. It's crazy to me. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep. And as Kyle Wilson points out with his $2 donation, don't forget that Root is 720p. It's not even a 1080. So it's not even high definition, like perfect high definition. So, yeah. So the quality of the TV is bad too.
It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous.
With your idea, Tori, we wouldn't be able to watch because YouTube would block us out because we're within, 30 miles of the arena or whatever.
Yeah, which is just also stupid, man. Like, blackouts shouldn't be a thing. Figure something out, man. Because that's the thing, is I feel like people that watch illegal streams, if they just had to pay $5, maybe $10 a month to become a channel member for the Portland Trailblazers, and they got game streams with that, and then maybe got some behind the scenes or like mic'd up videos, you could do some extra content for channel members other than just game streams. People would, instead of just going to an illegal stream, which is of course illegal, and then, sacrificing, some of the stream quality isn't going to be good. You're going to have hiccups. Sometimes they'll go down. It's just a whole headache. People are probably going to pay $5-10 a month. And you're going to make more money off ads too. So that's the thing, is there's a way to make it work in a way that's accessible to everybody. There's the infrastructure. There's so many different routes to go. I mean, and it just seems like this organization, and this is where the anger comes in, doesn't care to move forward. They're moving freaking backwards.
Yeah, and that would be a good way around, because we heard they had hardly any options. Like Root Sports was by far the best option when NBC Sports Northwest went out of business. So they didn't really have anyone jumping up to broadcast the game. So this would have been much more innovative and creative, and all those things that Hankins said in his tweet that you read off. That's the way to do it, by streaming it and getting your own streaming service or your own channel on a streaming platform. I think that's way more creative and would lead to a way better broadcast experience than being cheap and and just like not even going to road games and stuff.
You know what's crazy about this? Is yesterday, the Major League Baseball YouTube channel was streaming the Mariners versus the Angels. We're talking about the MLB, right?
Yeah.
If there's any league that's like stuck in the past, it's Major League Baseball. I could go on their freaking YouTube channel and watch the Mariners play the Angels. Now, they don't do that all the time, but I mean, if the MLB's willing to look at it, why can't the NBA? Why isn't there anything like that? Because that's the thing, is YouTube is worldwide. We know that with this channel, having a bunch of people support us from different countries. You can reach more people worldwide in a very easy way that people in many other countries are very familiar with. YouTube is a worldwide platform. Like, it's just, utilize it. Utilize it, because regional sports networks have struggled. You have Bally Sports that have stepped up and taken over a lot of local broadcasts and stuff, but I don't know. It just seems like the broadcast deal comes up in 2024. We will cover the broadcast, if there's stuff that leaks with the broadcast deal, we'll cover that. Same thing when the CBA is up in a couple of years. Like, we will cover the business side of the league as well, and we try and explain that in a way where it makes sense to everybody. We enjoy, like, knowing that type of stuff and covering that type of stuff. You got a broadcast deal up in 2024. You got to find a way to move forward into the future and make the game more accessible to fans and make the product better for fans. And, I mean, I think the Blazers are the leading team going against that, making it less accessible for fans, lowering the quality, root, according to Kyle, isn't even 1080p, and then potentially doing remote broadcasts next year. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And the NBA could still do their national TV deal with ESPN and TNT and stuff. That wouldn't change that. You could still have national broadcasts.
Yeah, I mean, just figure it out. Just figure it out. The end goal should be, obviously they're going to try and make money, but there's ways that they can make just as much money, if not more money, in my opinion, while also growing the reach of the game and making it more accessible for fans than they are right now. Mm-hmm. They're failing right now. So that's something for them to figure out in the long term. Let me thank a couple donos. Mike Aldridge, $5 dono. Thank you, Mike, for another dono. He says being a Blazers fan is stressful, chaotic, and damn spendy. Yeah, maybe the money they save off this broadcast will allow them to lower the cost for a bottle of water in Moda Center from $6 to $5. Okay, maybe then will that be worth it? No, they'll probably raise it. They'll probably raise it to 10. I mean, yeah, tongue-in-cheek comment because they ain't doing that. Yeah, thank you, Mike, for the dono. I wish they'd take the Falcons approach, man. The Atlanta Falcons. People might buy more food if it was cheaper, and even if you made the same amount of money, your fans would be happier. But no, they got to charge $6 for two drops of water.
I think they allow. I mean, they have a lot of local businesses, food places that go in there. I think they set their own prices. I don't think they tell them what they have to charge, but it's like a monopoly. They all charge the same thing for that bottle of water,
I mean, why wouldn't you, if you could set your own price as the business in Moda Center, why wouldn't you charge it cheaper to that, people will come here and buy a lot more cheap-ass bottles of water for $4 because everywhere else they're $6?
I don't know.
That's why I don't think that it's just the businesses setting their own prices, because it's so uniform.
Yeah.
Like, I've always thought it's the Moda Center has a hand in, like, okay, you guys need to
most
have
people are just
for these specific items.
Buy the drink wherever they're getting the food from.
Yeah, it's just so uniform across the entire stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've gone and looked at other food because is there anywhere I can find reasonably priced food here? And it's all the same, man. It's like if I'm a business owner who owns a food spot in the Moda, I am charging slightly less because I feel like that'll help me actually make more money because everywhere else is overpriced.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Thank you, Connor, for a $20 dono. Connor's suffering, Eric, because he says one of my teams, which is the Portland Timbers. Connor is probably I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. He's probably the biggest Portland Timbers fan in chat. Shout out to Connor. He's a Timbers diehard
that's a bold
fan.
statement.
It is a bold statement.
There's a lot of
Connor,
Timbers fans.
yeah. Let me know in chat if you think you're a bigger Timbers fan than Connor. But thank you, Connor, for the $20 dono. He says, one of my teams escapes the Root Sports death trap, only for the other one to fall right in. With a sad face emoji. And yeah. The Timbers escaped it, and now the Blazers are here, man. Now we get to feel the pain that you've been feeling for longer than us, Connor, because honestly, I haven't paid attention to the I almost said the Timberwolves. I haven't paid attention to the Timbers until recently. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how the MLB, because they're going, or MLS, sorry, is going to exclusively streaming, right? They're not going to have any local broadcasts. It's all going to be on a streaming platform. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. Sounds like Connor's happy about it, maybe, but
yeah, I only think that works is if you have one, maybe 2 games max a week. So like games are a little bit more spread out. When you're the NBA and you'll have like 10 games in a day, I just don't really I don't really know if that model makes sense. Whereas like the NFL, you have 16 games max a week. So, maybe that's something for the NBA to look at. They got to figure something out. I mean, that's the thing. If that increases accessibility for fans and affordability and helps more fans see the game, it makes access easier and results in higher quality broadcasts, I'm absolutely here for it. I will listen to whoever commentate. I mean, if it's a national broadcast, they're going to be quality commentators. I'll listen to whoever if the broadcast is quality and if I could easily pay for it and watch it. Mm-hmm. Not asking for much there. So, Anyway, thank you for the donos. Any final words on this situation?
Yeah, because let me tie this into... So, Hurd had Cronin and Hankins on TV, right? Or on a YouTube interview.
Yeah, do you think the timing is fishy?
Well, I don't know about fishy, but everything from Olshey to now Cronin to Hankins, I'm blanking on Chris McGowan is the other guy I was trying to think of. So every single one of them was like, Jody's great. She's so involved. You guys don't understand. And Hankins and Cronin reiterated that she's a fan of the team. She likes owning the team. She's a lot more involved than people say. They made it a point to say that, right? And there was around free agency time, I forget if it was the big press conference or whatever, but I think it was Cronin that made it a point to say that Jody was very involved and she gave us the ability to do all these moves and whatever. So yeah, and even Dame, there was that stupid false report that Jody is ducking his calls or whatever, and Dame had to come out and say like, no, he talked to her on the phone, and like he can get a hold of her whenever he wants, and he doesn't even use email like the the post suggested or whatever. And so I've talked about this on the show, right, to where the last few years the Blazers have not been good at the trade deadline, right? They've been struggling to be around 500 or what, sometimes worse. And so they've been sellers kind of at the trade deadline, or wanted to get under the tax or less tax or whatever. And so a lot of people look at that like, oh, Jody's just being cheap. She's trying to avoid the tax. But there was some benefits when you're not playing well as a team, you're not a top seed, to ducking the tax and doing that. So I was curious to see, like, if we got off to a good start this next year, which will tie into the schedule here in a minute, but like, if she was willing to pay to like, this year will be a great example because we're just above that tax line. And are we going to try to duck the tax no matter what? Or if we're winning and like, say 4th or 5th seed come February, are we going to go for it and go right up to that hard cap line and bring in another player using the Rocco trade exception or whatnot? So like, I was curious to see what that would look like. And then you hear Cronin and Hankins yesterday basically saying that she's going to do that. She's going to do whatever it takes. They think she's a great owner. She's really involved and all this stuff. And then this stuff comes out today. So like, I'm like, okay, maybe Jody is. And then you hear that stuff like, oh, she doesn't even want to sell the team. And they came out when the initial Phil Knight offer came back and said, the team's not even for sale. And then you hear this stuff that there's maybe some bitterness towards Phil Knight and they don't want to sell to him specifically, which is dumb. But like, so all this stuff leads me to believe like maybe she does want to keep the team. Maybe she does. And then it comes out that they're just going to be cheap again. And it's like, dude, just sell the freaking team. I'm sick of wondering if you're going to dip your toe in or get out of the pool, like just get out. Like it's driving me crazy. It's to the point now where like I don't even care anymore if she is engaged or Wiz willing to pay the money. It's just become dumb, and I'm sick of hearing this stuff. Like we should be talking today about how awesome the broadcasts are going to be this year and all these cool things they're going to do, not like, oh man, are they going to suck again? Are we going to have to like endure a whole year of like really horrible broadcasts again? And I'm sick of feeling that way as a fan, man. I'm sick of them feeling like they don't care about our experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want them to want to care about our experience and want to care about how we view games and stuff like that, not the other way around.
Yep. God, man. Shout out Mike Aldridge, $5 donor. He says, Tori, here is $5 towards your next bottle of water at Moda. Cheers. It'll probably get, those like little mini bottles of water that are like this tall? Yeah. That'll probably... now I can buy one of those. Awesome. Thank you, Mike, for hydrating me. I definitely won't thirst to death. Yeah. I mean, it's just always something, and it's just... That's the thing is, you have all these people saying she's engaged, but it just feels... Something feels off, and stuff like this justifies... anybody that feels like something's off in regards to the ownership and how they're running the team. Like, it's something that I've struggled to put into words. I've wanted her to sell because it's like, doesn't seem like she's fully invested, but then she shows up to games and people say good things, but then something like this happens, and there's other things in the past as well. And, the fact that she didn't even interview a GM after Olshay got fired, it was just, here you go, Cronin, here's the job. Like, there's just been things that have not been done well at all, that start from the top, from the ownership position, with all the turnover that's been underneath that is getting frustrating to deal with. And I mean, the broadcast is just one of those things, the lack of access in this, and hopefully they listen to the fan base. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, it sounds like they did today, maybe.
yeah. I mean, we just gotta scream on Twitter to get them to act with common sense, I guess, which is just silly and frustrating as a fan. Anyway, Eric, let's move on. Let's talk schedule.
All right.
So I did my schedule breakdown. I saw a couple people in chat. Like, I just started watching your video. You just dropped and you guys were live. Yeah, I wanted to drop it yesterday, and I spent way too long on that video, but I created graphics for it that we're going to be able to use on post-game shows this year. I created graphic for every game, basically. So hopefully you enjoy that. But I want your takeaways, Eric, from the schedule. Good, bad, what do you think? How do you think the season shapes up and all that?
Well, I mean, overall, you can't really think about it too harshly because, I mean, we knew the teams were going to be playing, so it wasn't a matter of, oh, it's a super hard schedule or anything, because it's the NBA wasn't doing anything to us specifically. I saw that going around on social media, like, oh, the NBA hates us. We have the fourth hardest schedule or whatever. Like, no, those are the 82 games where you're going to play no matter what the NBA wanted to do.
The only difference is like the only disparity, okay, just to let you guys know how schedule works. You play the Eastern Conference teams twice a year, one home, one road. Okay, you play every team in your division 4 times a year. The other Western Conference teams, there's 10 other Western Conference teams. 6 of them you play 4 times, and 4 of them you play 3 times. So the only disparity is which 4 of those Western Conference teams you only play 3 times. One of them is Phoenix, which is one of the best teams in the West, and I think another one of them is the Clippers, if I recall correctly, which is another top team in the West, so we didn't get screwed. It's just, the worst teams are always going to have a harder strength of schedule the next year because they can't play themselves and they were a bad team, whereas the good teams can't play themselves, they were a good team.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, if you notice, the 5 teams with the hardest schedules were all like in the bottom 10 last year in record. And that's because, like you said, they don't play themselves. And the Blazers aren't in the division with like Houston. Now they are in the division with OKC, but that's also not accounting for Utah being much worse because they had a good record last year. Minnesota's probably better than they were last year, and Denver's probably going to be better than they were last year. So we have a pretty hard division outside of OKC, and yeah. So I don't know. It's just based on records. So I don't get why people freak out. Same with the national TV games. Blazers weren't going to get a ton. Now they only ended up with, I think, 3 outside of NBA TV, which kind of sucks, especially considering the Root Sports. Because I can watch TNT at work, I can watch ESPN at work, but I can't watch Root Sports. And I know that problem doesn't apply to everyone, but just me personally. And so yeah, it kind of sucks that we don't have those games, a lot of those games. But I'm surprised we got 3, to be honest. So yeah.
I did have a couple other pet peeves though, and I want your thoughts on these. Okay, the
Phoenix.
Well, no, because that's. I mean, I'll get that later. But I was gonna say, playing 2 games in a row against the same team, and there's 5 instances of that this year. I have always hated that.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not as down on it as you are, but yeah, it does get kind of boring. I guess that helps you with the graphics, not having to change them for 2 games, right?
I mean, yeah, but it's not too hard. It's not too hard, man. But it's like, there's something about covering the same exact team. You're playing 2 games in a row. I mean, it's not baseball. The game should be spread out where you're playing, like, that's the thing. There's 3 games against Phoenix in the first 9 games, which I think is ridiculous. Like, that shouldn't be the case, man. Like, might as well just made them all in a row then. Like, at that point, 2 of them are in a row, the 8th and 9th games of the year against Phoenix. And then we don't play them again for the rest of the year. Our last game against Phoenix, a Western Conference rival, so to say. Right. Last game against them is November 5th. November 5th? That's before Election Day. Like, this is just so early. So that bothered me, but that was more like part of why it bothers me is because I like doing the play-by-play streams over on Suns Valley podcast on Gabe's streams, and we're not going to have one of those from November 5th on throughout the rest of the year unless we play him in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And in that case, I don't know if I'd want to go out anyway because it would get a little heated. But, so part of it is that, but overall, I don't like playing the same team twice in a row, and I can't even really explain it. I just have always disliked that. Yeah. Chat, how do you feel about that? Let me know in chat.
Since we only play the East Coast teams once on the road, like it makes sense. Like if we played twice in Miami, coming from Portland, like to play them maybe twice in a row and not have to go back to Florida, and we maybe play Orlando during the same time or whatever. But it just sucks that, or it doesn't really suck. It's just kind of boring to play the same team twice in a row. I like to mix it up, and 2, I mean, circumstances can be different, and I'm a huge fan of mixing it up throughout the season, because like in your Phoenix example, that really sucks because who knows how good both of our teams are going to be earlier in the season. You'd like to see throughout the season, we played Phoenix, they were the best team in the West last year, we played them early on and we did this well, and then 2 months later we played them again and we did better, or, we beat them this time or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then towards the end of the season, it's after the trade deadline, we both made some moves, let's see how we go. We might be matched up in the first round of the playoffs or something, like it just feels like now it's going to be like, we're done with Phoenix, all right, see you next year.
Yeah. Out of 8 games, we play them 3 times, and that's the thing is, like, if somebody's hurt on either team, like somebody key is hurt, that changes the balance of those 3 games specifically. Like, that's also why I don't like back-to-backs. If you have, Damian Lillard's a little banged up, and then you have a back-to-back games against a team you're battling for seeding in the Minnesota Timberwolves, you could be screwed. Even worse, because Dame misses a couple of games and it just happens that you play the same team twice in a row that you're battling with. So it just, there's no reason why you can't spread out the games more, in my opinion. I'm wondering, because as I look at things, like a lot of the back-to-backs I think come on the road. Phoenix we play on the road back-to-back. Same with OKC later in the year. Same with, let me see, Sacramento is at home. It's a home back-to-back. What are the other two? Let me find them. Dallas is a home back-to-back, January 14th and 15th. And then Minnesota's a home back-to-back. So only 2 of them are on the road, 3 of them are at home. But I noticed this, Eric. I don't know if you've noticed this, and I pointed this out in the video, but obviously that just dropped. We have multiple instances where we go to the East Coast on a road trip and only play 2 Eastern Conference teams, which means more trips out to the East Coast.
Yeah, don't we have like 5-6 game road trips or something?
Yeah, but it's like, that's the thing, it's like, if we have a 6-game road trip, if all of them come against the East, cool, because that's 6 of our 15 games against an Eastern Conference opponent on the road, right? And you think about it like, if you play 6 games in a row on the East Coast, you have some time to kind of adjust to being on the East Coast as a team over here in Portland. But if you're constantly having to go East Coast for only a game or 2 and trying to adjust to, going from the West Coast to the East Coast, and you're doing that multiple times in a year, it equals more flight miles. And you're not having these longer East Coast road trips, which I feel like would be better for the team because they're able to adjust to being on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first road trip, and this is the perfect example of this, the first big road trip of the season, 6-game road trip, it's Phoenix twice in a row, it's early November. Then we go all the way from Phoenix to Miami on the 7th, Charlotte on the 9th, then we go and play second half of back-to-back in New Orleans. We go back to playing Western Conference teams. New Orleans on the 10th and Dallas on the 12th. So we go all the way over to Miami, furthest city from Portland. Only for 2 games. It's Miami and Charlotte.
Yep. We used to always play Miami and Orlando on the same road trip. Now we have to go back later in the season to play Orlando.
Yep. There's another road trip, a 3-game road trip in early January where we play Minnesota, Indiana, Toronto, and the Toronto game is a earlier game. Yeah, which is kind of weird. And then we have another 3-game road trip in early February, Eric, which goes Memphis, Washington, Chicago. And then we come home 2 days later to play the Bucks at home. Like, it just doesn't make much sense to me, man. So that bothered me more than anything, really.
We play the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
They have Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off, obviously. One cool thing that they did about the schedule, though, is they scheduled every team to play on November 7th.
Yeah.
And they're going to promote voting for the next day on November 8th. But the Blazers play in Miami.
And then that's in the middle of that 2 games over on the East Coast.
And then have to go to Charlotte. And so they're going to be on the East Coast. So hopefully no one has a problem with them voting either by mail or...
Yeah, earlier. I don't know what the laws are, but yeah. I mean, that's just silly, man. I just don't. So,
yeah, I mean, but like I said, ultimately, I mean, we had the same schedule no matter who we were what the order was. So,
just the way it gets laid out too. It's very tough to start the season. November is brutal.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was going to bring up. I mean, we pretty much have to get opening night victory because the next 4 games are Phoenix, Lakers, Nuggets, and Heat. Now, you could think what you want about the Lakers. That's still a tough game to play at LA. And you'd think that early in the season, everyone would be healthy. Phoenix is obviously going to be tough. Denver's going to be tough. And Miami's going to be tough. So we got to get at least a couple of those games, but we might be talking about a 2-3 start being acceptable and okay when we're hoping for a little better start. And then we play Houston, and then we got the next 4 games are Memphis, Phoenix, Miami. So that's brutal, man. Yeah, all on the road, except for the Memphis game. So Yeah, that's tough. And then Charlotte, should be okay. New Orleans and Dallas are going to be tough.
Yeah, and those are road games, so
Yeah.
those are tough games. Yeah.
So yeah, it's we're really going to have to play well right from the jump this year. We know we've struggled a little bit early seasons over the past few years, and we just cannot afford to do that this year. But it's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be maybe not for the full 22 games, but we were talking a lot last off season about how tough the first 22 games were, and if we could just be 500, which we were close to being,
Yeah.
But then Dame goes out, and we never really had a chance after that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
It's the same exact boat.
it's the same boat, only I think the first like 15 or so games are even harder than they were last year.
Yeah, so I did 50 win pace, and I also did like 500 record pace, like 41 and 41 pace. There's 22 games through October and November at a 50 win pace. Given our strength of schedule, it's adjusted for strength of schedule. What do you think the record is after November that I had?
You adjusted it for strength?
Yeah, for strength of schedule.
Your own personal method? Okay.
Yeah, basically, I predict. So for anybody that doesn't know, I'll explain it. I explained in the video, but I'll explain it here. I predicted the win total or the winning percentage for every team, and then I also adjusted for away and home. I adjusted for home court advantage based on previous years and how much of an advantage a home court team had during the regular season. And then I also adjusted a little bit in terms of rest days for the Blazers. So second night of a back-to-back would be a little bit harder. And then I churned out what would be the record after each month if the Blazers played consistently throughout the season at a 50 win pace, but you accounted for how hard the schedule is at some parts and how easy it is for other parts. So with that being said, after November at a 50 win pace, what do you think out of 22 games, Eric? What do you think the record I had was?
10 and 12?
Even worse.
Even
9
worse?
and 13.
Wow. Yeah.
I also did a 41 and 41 pace, so 500 record pace. After November, what do you think?
Like 6 and 16.
Even worse, it was 5 and 17.
Oh man, I was close, but yeah.
So yeah, because I mean, yeah, it's just brutal. That's the thing is you look at the Kings. I think I had them projected with like a 40% win percentage, but you're playing them on the road, which makes them like above 500. Like because they're playing at home, you're playing on the road. That's the differential between home and road. So a 500 team, you would expect to lose to Sacramento on the road. I mean, shoot, we lost to Sacramento opening night at home, right? And then you got Phoenix. Then you got the Lakers on the road. Then you got Denver and Miami at home. A 500 team is struggling to win all those games.
Mm-hmm.
And then Houston at home, a 500 team takes care of business there. But then the Grizzlies at home were a good team last year. Phoenix, Miami, all on the road. Charlotte on the road. New Orleans on the road. Dallas on the road. Like a 500 team that they probably wouldn't be favored in any of those games.
Yeah. Well, I'll say the same thing I said last year. If the Blazers want to be one of the top seeds in the West, if they get off to a surprising start early, look out, man. They could really have a good special season. So, I mean, they could still have a good season, I think, like you said, even if they were 9 and 13, they still could possibly win 50 games. But if you're all of a sudden like 14 and 8 or something after that stretch and you play a little better, maybe you just with pure energy and hustle, take some teams off guard and get some wins that you might not have gotten later in the season against those same teams. This could really be a good thing if you have a tough schedule early, if you perform. The problem is if you start to struggle and then you start to question if this is going to be the same as last year, and if things are downhill, we didn't improve at all. Because I guarantee you, if we're 9 and 13, no one's going to see it positively, other than maybe us trying to spin it positively, right?
I said that in the video, and I said I would reference this video back in that case.
Yeah. So, like, everyone's going to be panicking if we're 9 and 13. Oh, this team sucks. I knew we should trade Dame, right? Like, nothing goes right. Dame's going to ask out at the deadline. All this stuff is going to happen, and people are going to panic. But yeah, the problem last year was we didn't get a chance to see if Chauncey's coaching would have at some point sunk in, and once we got rid of some of the players that or started benching them or whatever we decided to do at that point, if that would have mattered, because you look at the teams in the conference finals last year, you got Dallas, who was hovering around 500. I think it was almost 60 games into the season or so. I think they were like 32-30 or something at one point. So they weren't necessarily, they had a new coach. They weren't necessarily lighting it on fire early in the season. Boston was hovering around 500, the 8th seed for much of the, like over half the season. And they stuck with their philosophies, and eventually their coaching sunk in, and Ime got a hold of that team, and they played fantastic defense the rest of the season after that. So like it is possible to still to tread water for a while and then be fine in the long run. I just hope that we can skip that year, because we basically could have had that last year, possibly. We don't know for sure if we would have or not, but like hopefully we just skip to now being a little better than advertised, and we catch teams off guard and get off to a good start. Because I think if we get confidence early and Chauncey starts feeling like his coaching is working, the team feels like they're completely bought in, we have all players that buy in and have energy and will bring it on a nightly basis, I think this team could be very, very good if they get off to a good start. If not, it's going to be really tough to see how it goes after that.
Yep, here's the month-by-month breakdown. I took this from the video, but strength of schedule is just opponent-based, which is SOS, but then ADJ stands for adjusted strength of schedule, which adjusts for home and road and back-to-backs and whatnot. I mean, look at the month of November, Eric, compared to everything else.
11 road
wild.
Games, too. Yeah, that's crazy.
11 road games, 3 back-to-backs, only one stretch of 2 days off. It's the hardest strength of opponent in general of any month, and then it's the hardest in terms of home and road splits and back-to-backs.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about 16 games in 30 days.
And then you look at December and January. Man, this looks so eerily familiar. Are you sure this isn't the graphic from last year?
Nope. Yeah, that's what's crazy, man. Let me go find last year's. It would be interesting to compare it. So let me look that up. I should be able to have it in a couple minutes.
And then while you're doing that, those 2 of the 5 games in April are our last 2 games of the season are a back-to-back against the Clippers and Warriors. So the hope is that seeding doesn't matter for those teams, and we, we get maybe some lay-down opponents. But if we need those games and those teams are fighting for positions, man, that's going to be tough playing those 2 teams back-to-back.
Yep. All right, here we go. 2021, that's what I'm saying. 2021, 2022 schedule. Let's just do that. I'll throw it up here on the screen in a second. I haven't looked at this yet. I'll look at it with you guys. All right. My table this year was a lot better. It was a lot better than last year's. Last year I just took it from an Excel spreadsheet, but all right. That is last year's, by the way. I don't know where to put it. But November was the hardest month. November also had 16 games last year. The thing is, in November last year, you had 6 back-to-backs. But you also had 4 stretches of 2 days off. Right? And the strength of opponent, HA stands for adjusted. It's basically the same thing. Was 0.534. This year it's 0.626. So it's even harder November this year. You were right, Eric. Just based on the analytics, this is just what the math fed back to me. The thing is, the home and road splits. We played more road games later on in the year. January and March played more road than home games. This year, literally January, February, and March, we play 26 home games to 16 road games. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit of a difference. So I think it might be even easier those months this year than it was last year. I mean, January is easier than any month was last year.
Yeah.
But back-to-backs were the same, was 14. I did the math on this. Back-to-backs, 14 back-to-backs last year, 14 this year. There was 14 stretches of 2 days off or more last year. There was only 11 this year. What's interesting is there's two stretches. I believe there's two stretches where the Blazers only play one game in 6 days.
Oh, wow.
Which is, let me look it up here. October 26th, they play the Heat, right? Then October 27th, off day. October 28th, home game against the Houston Rockets. That should be an easy win where you can get rest, right? Then they don't play the 29th, 30th, 31st, or November 1st. 4 days off in a row.
That'll be nice after the first 6 games of the season.
Yep, and it's at home. You get the whole Halloween period to do whatever. Is Halloween on a weekend? It's on a Monday. But yeah, so that's a big stretch of rest there. And then in late December as well, end of December, they play the 23rd against Denver. Then they have the 24th and 25th off. That's Christmas. Then they play the 26th against Charlotte. Then they have the 27th, 28th, and 29th off.
Nice. Yeah, man, that's nice though. The Friday, the October one, because it's in between two home games. So you play 6 games and then you have 4 days, hopefully, of fixing things up and tuning things all at home. You're not on the road just like sitting in a hotel or whatever. Like you can actually work on some stuff those days. So that'll be good.
Yep. Do you guys have any other takeaways from the schedule? Let me know in chat and we can read them off. I feel like we've done a pretty good job covering it, and I went as in depth as I could in regards to the schedule breakdown, talked about our first games, especially home games against key rookies, in case you want to see Jabari Smith play in person, in case you want to see Banchero play in person. I focused on that as well, and just try to make it super in depth. So always try to go a little harder with these schedule breakdowns. That's why it took so long, and I released it today when the schedule dropped yesterday. So if I missed anything, let me know in chat. I'll read it aloud, and otherwise that means we covered it well. Very little nationally televised games, yeah, but that was to be expected. 3 was what I would have guessed probably. So yeah, we'll give record predictions in a stream right here on the second channel before the season. We'll have like a Western Conference predictions, and I'll get, Eric's record prediction for the Portland Trail Blazers, as well as all our mods. Get the opportunity to participate in certain aspects during the season of streams as a thank you for helping us out, Police Chat.
Andrew Shute says we need to cover Will the Thrill in Denver. That'll be a little tough since he's in Washington now.
Yeah.
He was traded in the offseason. I know that it's hard to remember all the moves sometimes, but yeah, he is in Washington.
Yep, Ish Smith's in Denver now, though. He was a Pirtle guest a couple of days ago. He was a hard one.
Did you forget he was on Denver?
I'm struggling to keep up with who's where after this offseason, more so than I have in a while. Yeah, that trade I feel like people forget happened. The KCP trade. Yeah. I forget that happened. So, but nobody pays attention to Washington. Washington is one of those teams where it's just like I never know. I struggle keeping track of who's on Washington. I probably pay the least amount of attention to them in the Magic.
Well, I'm going to pay attention to the Magic this year.
Yeah, you got Banchero now and Jalen Suggs if he can break out. You got Franz Wagner. That could be a sneaky team. I mean, the thing is, a lot of the bottom feeders now are more intriguing. Like Detroit and Orlando especially. Because Detroit has Jaden Ivey. You got Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren. Like, that's a fun team. Mm-hmm. In Orlando, you got Banchero, you got Franz Wagner, who was one of the best rookies last year. You got Wendell Carter Jr., who was really good last year. Jalen Suggs, if he can, take that second-year jump. He struggled as a rookie, but you've seen guards struggle as rookies. Like, Darius Garland was horrible as a rookie, and then by, year 3, year 4, he's an all-star caliber player.
Year 3, yeah.
Yeah, so, that's the hope for Jalen Suggs. My guy Jalen Suggs, man. I'm a big Jalen Suggs fan. And you got some other talent there. You got Markelle Fultz. I mean, Jonathan Isaac could be back this year. We'll see. So Orlando could be a sneaky team, man. if Banchero is truly the real deal.
He sure looks like it.
Yeah.
Weird
Anyway,
weird beef with DeJounte aside.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, man. DeJounte just, I don't know, seems like he finally got out of San Antonio and now he can talk publicly and just is going a little overboard. But, yeah, I mean, that's two Northwest guys, two Seattle area guys. Yeah. Anything else regarding the schedule or regarding the broadcast?
Do you want Orlando to go for Donovan Mitchell? No, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I think Donovan Mitchell is going to be a New York Knick if he gets traded. They have so many picks now. And that's the type of team to go after them, the type of team that needs a star like that if they're trying to like take a step up into being competitive again. I mean, they're competitive. That's the thing. When they got that 4 seed, right? They overachieved as much as possible that year. If I recall correctly, they were relatively healthy, and then Julius Randle had like a career year where he just overachieved. He just played like the best he could possibly play for the course of a season, and that team played the best they could possibly play for the course of the season. And you had a team with a lot of somewhat questionable defensive players on it that was like a top 5 defense that year.
Yeah, there was a stretch where there was like 6 teams all within a couple games of each other, and they went on like they won like 9 out of 11 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, and just went to the front of that pack, and no other team kind of separated themselves. And then Atlanta was right behind them later in the season. But yeah, it's I agree. That was kind of a 1-year outlier. I don't really like their makeup.
Yep. So they're in the perfect position where, like, if they want to truly be competitive and maybe win a playoff series, like, that's the type of move to make. Because I don't think they're bad enough to really compete for Wemby or... I mean, they would have needed to blow it up. And they signed Jalen Brunson. So...
Are you... if you're them, did you hear the latest thing that Utah wants?
RJ Barrett and 6 first?
Yeah, are you doing that?
Too much.
Yeah.
6 first on its own is already in the ballpark. If it's like 6 first and Obi Toppin, maybe you do that.
Yeah.
But 6 first and RJ Barrett is too much.
Yep.
I mean, the goal needs to be Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett. I don't like Julius Randle on that team at all. So find somebody else, and then Mitchell Robinson / Isaiah Hartenstein. Like I like Isaiah Hartenstein a lot. Really like that pickup for them. And I mean, that's a team that's a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Obi Toppin looked really, really good last season near the end of last year. Like, Obi Toppin should be the starting 4, in my opinion. It shouldn't be Julius Randle. Like, if you had I would like Obi Toppin. I would start Obi Toppin. If I could decide to start Obi Toppin or Julius Randle, I would start Obi Toppin in that lineup. Julius Randle's more talented, I guess, right now, but you need a guy to play off of Brunson and Mitchell and complement them. Obi Toppin does that really well. Floor runner, lob target, all that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can't shoot, but neither can Julius Randle. But Julius Randle needs the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, if they include guys like Obi, Quickly, and Grimes, those guys all feel like they have first-round pick value each. So if you trade them on top of 6 picks, that's like 9 firsts. Basically, you're giving up in value. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
You know, Utah's like, well, we got 4 firsts for Rudy Gobert and a couple young players, so
yeah,
you know, they've been emboldened.
Yep.
Anyway,
I mean, they do have the capital to do it. It's not like that ruins their future.
Yeah,
and they do need a Donovan Mitchell type player. As good as Jalen Brunson is, he doesn't have the star power that Mitchell has, but
because they traded the 11th pick for 3 future firsts in the draft, and everyone was like, "What are they doing? Why'd they trade the 11th pick?" I mean, they got 3 future firsts, so that's half the first right there, right?
Well, they traded. Well, yeah, they traded one of them to get Duran, and then they traded Duran for another first. So yeah, it equaled 3. Yeah, so that was all weird. Like,
But, like, that's the thing. You make that move if you're trying to position yourself for a Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah.
Which just seems like the type of guy to be a New York Knicks splash trade. You know what I mean? Like, Donovan Mitchell just seems like he makes sense in New York. I don't know why, but he just does to me. So, that would be my prediction if Mitchell gets traded. That was the hard part with doing the schedule breakdown, is like, how many wins do I project the Nets and the Jazz?
Yeah.
I gave them 38 wins. Because if the Jazz keep Donovan Mitchell, they can still be a playoff team.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, they were a 1 seed with Donovan Mitchell, or they were a 1 seed with Rudy Gobert. Now they have Jared Vanderbilt as their starting center, I guess. Who is... I don't... Did they replace him with somebody better?
Who?
Who's the starting center next year in Utah?
Hassan Whiteside? I don't know.
I mean, it's probably Jared Vanderbilt, who's like...
Walker Kessler?
Hell no. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt's really good defensively. I mean, he's not Rudy Gobert, but... I mean, he's really good defensively and a lob target, and also similarly unskilled.
But as your start, I don't think he can be a starting center.
Yeah, I mean, it's questionable, but he can defend. He can defend that position, though.
Kinda. He's really undersized for a starting center.
What is he?
He's more of a 4.
I'd have to look up his measurements. I thought his measurements were like good enough to be a small ball 5. I mean, yeah, it's questionable.
Small ball 5, I agree. Just
my whole point. They definitely got worse, but I don't know if they went from like home court advantage team to not even in the play-in. And if you're in the play-in, you have a chance to make the playoffs. Like, that's where I struggled with Utah's. I could still see them as they're built right now. I could see them being a 500 team. If they trade Donovan Mitchell, they're a 20-win team.
8'10" standing reach, by the way.
Okay, a little bit shorter than I thought. I was thinking it was 9-foot range. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's undersized for a 5. But I don't know what else they have. Walker Kessler is just gross there. But there's your standing reach, Eric Walker Kessler. Your guy, Walker Kessler.
No, not my guy. Don't put that on me. I don't want people who don't know that to think that's true.
Is Hassan still in Utah, though?
I don't think he resigned. I don't know.
Bro, I thought they got somebody else. Chat, help us out. Help us out at the end of this stream. Utah Jazz depth chart, I guess I'll Google.
It just said he last played for Utah last year, but...
Yeah. Or a roster, I guess. Yeah, they still got Mike Conley. I mean, Udoka Azubuike? Is he still on the roster? Or didn't they say they had him as like a top 5 prospect in that draft?
Something like that.
Or something crazy? Yeah. I mean, Utah was hard to figure out, and then obviously Brooklyn with the Kevin Durant stuff. Who knows? But anyway, any final things you want to talk about?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for letting us rant earlier in the stream. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good weekend, and we'll catch you on Monday.
Yep, we'll be back on Monday with another live stream. Let's see if I had anything like tentatively scheduled in terms of that, because there's a couple different stream ideas for the dog days of August that I want to do. Where are we at here? Video sheet. We could do like, I don't know. We can talk about whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll have something for you on Monday. It'll be a surprise. I plan on doing Blazers Pulse. I haven't gotten around to that. But I plan on doing Blazers Pulse over the weekend. So stay tuned for that. Definitely go check out that schedule breakdown on the main channel, that video that I dropped for more in-depth analysis on the Blazers 2022-2023 schedule. If you don't know the main channel somehow, just go into the Google or go into the YouTube search and search Blazers Uprise. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Torrey Jones YT. That's Torey because nobody knows how to spell it. Eric is at Hoops Jock, which is a little easier to spell. Channel at Blazers Uprise YT, so you know when we drop anything.
Spelled like it sounds.
Hoops Jock. Yep. Once again, if you want to join our Discord, I will plug that link in the chat once again. And with that being said, we are out of here. We'll catch you on Monday. Have a good weekend. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.